Yeah, I started out at 17 years old. I went to the military, and I served in there 9/11, and then yeah, and then I got out, and I worked in the consumer packaged goods from like 22 to 28 with a company, the Scott's Miracle Grow company. It was a really cool company because being in the military is very destructive, and or at least my experiences were
Sure.
destructive, as
Yeah.
not productive. So when I got out, I suffered from PTSD and a couple of other things, but it was environmental sustainability that I used to help as a coping mechanism. So growing, cooking, etc. And so I found myself in the way of a company named the Scott's Miracle Grow Company. It's like the largest lawn and garden company in the US. It's really cool. And yeah, I did the consumer packaged goods for a while, and it was really cool. I got to learn, but I got to a point where I started having kids, and I wanted to be able to have more freedom as opposed to tied to the clock. I would work
Yeah.
from 6 o'clock in the morning to maybe 2 o'clock at night
Mhm.
in the morning, the rolling time. So, I think it was around 2000, I don't know, 16, 17, around there. I packed my bags up. I was living in Seattle at the time, and started my own company. Didn't really have any prospects, didn't really know what I was doing. Had just bought a house and had a mortgage and no way to pay that mortgage. But I was just like, I'm going to do this. It's calling my name. And what was really cool is that, and this is the one thing that I love about business, is that I made a lot of friends and I took care of a lot of people.
Mhm.
So what I didn't know at the time, and I learned along the way, was is that when I started to struggle and I started my own business and I was all in, these people started helping me. People that I never really thought of as, prospects or clients. They were just people that I took care of because that was my job at the time. And I really loved what I did. And it was really cool that the universe kind of reciprocated that. So, and as we talked about travel, I started my business, and I really missed the military because I got to travel and see all these beautiful places in the world. But I had to see them through the eyes of the military, which was kind of a filtered lens. I had to do a certain,
Right.
it's just like, how can I do this myself? So, one common factor I found, no matter where you're at in the world, is food, sustainability, environmental. All that ties into, no matter what culture you're at, you can bring people together with food, and food all routes from the ground and sourcing and agriculture. Now, I want to be a farmer. I'm not a farmer. I was a sales, marketing, branding guy. So what I would do is just say, where do I want to go in the world? Spain. We were talking about that earlier. And then I would just go and I'd look for companies in Spain that were consumer packaged goods companies, whether they were in the lawn and garden space, hydroponic space, or the cannabis space, because I work in the cannabis space as well. And I would find their product, learn about it, research the customer base, and then I would just reach out to them and say, hey, my name is Chris. I run my own business. I think that I can help you and would love to set up a call. And most people are just willing and receptive to meet you or talk to
Right.
you. That's the cool thing, is like just getting on the phone. Like, I win if I get a conversation with you, like our conversation here. I'm winning already. I don't even need to get the job. It's just the connections, and I found that I would get hired, and I'd come in and I'd do everything from business and sales strategy to branding. I'd equivalent that to my military experience. Everything is very dress right dress. So what I was able to do, and I have a bachelor's and master's that I got along the way, but that's the story for another time. But what I was able to do is take my military experience, my educational experience, and my professional experience with the Scott's Miracle Grow, and I blended that together. That's how I built my business. So that was the thing, is you had the military strategy, which tied into the little bit of business knowledge I got in college. But let's be honest, and we can talk about this. What would I say to my younger self, when we get there, is
Right.
I spent I don't know, over $100,000 on college, and I learned more in one day just sitting. And we were talking about it with your dad, is sitting in Grant Cardone's office
Yeah.
and working with people like Pat Quinn and Pete Vargas. I learned more in a day than I learned in 4 years there. Or losing money, working for companies, and failing to succeed. Every time you lose money, you learn. And you
Mm.
can play in college with scenarios all you want, but it doesn't factor in those variables of life,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I don't know. That was a long ramble. All that to say is that I've owned two companies now. My first company was Zen Leaf Gardens, and that was a cannabis exclusive business. And the reason I got to that business is I was working in lawn and gardening and hydroponics. And out here in California, cannabis become recreational. I had a friend. He was first a business partner, become a friend, and he was really good at branding and had been working in the cannabis space for a long time, just growing the plant for medicinal purposes. But he didn't know sales and strategy, and he didn't know how to brand and market. And I guess lucky fortunate me enough, somebody said, hey, you should talk to Chris. He's really good at sales strategy, branding. He worked for the Miracle Grow company. And that was my first step into cannabis, because I really didn't know much about cannabis, but I figured if I can grow tomatoes, I can grow cannabis. If I can sell tomatoes. So I started building sales strategies, and we worked together with a team. And I think that cannabis brand now, when I first started, was nothing. They sold for $15 million, or was acquired for like $15 million. So I was able to take all that professional experience and bring it into a budding industry, no pun intended, but a budding industry that was new. And it became very profitable for me. And that's how I started traveling the world, is all these companies that had consumer packaged goods for cannabis needed help with their business strategy, their marketing, their branding. So I just took what I had learned in traditional business, blended it with the culture. So that became my first business. And I did that for a long time, but then I got kind of burnt out. So now I have a new company, which is Satyr Enterprises. And we work more outside of just the cannabis space. We work with all businesses within the consumer packaged good industry. You do something for so long and you get burnt out, military burned out, lawn and garden burnt out, go to cannabis burnt out. And it's like, well, how do I keep getting burnt out? How do I avoid that? Well, let's just work with everybody and anybody. It doesn't matter. And that is a challenge, because people go, well, you don't know my industry. But I don't have to know your industry. I just have to know how to sell. I just know how to market, know how to brand. You teach me and I'll teach you. I always look at business as one person's never more important than another. So it's a mutual relationship. So yeah, that's the long and short of my professional areas of expertise.
Hey, well, I appreciate that. It was super cool to learn about and to hear about. And it's so cool that you're able to take something that you had experience in this and this and this, and something that you love, and you're like, let me make it all work together. And I mentioned that's what my dad did. When he had me and my brother, well, me first, obviously. He's like,
make sure you say that first.
Me first. No, because we have a decent enough age gap, so I should say that. But he's like, I don't really want to be in a job. I want to be able to have the flexibility with my family, and I want to travel with my family. I want to be able to take them where I want, and we can all have fun together as the family, as the four of us. And I think that's super cool that you wanted that, and you saw that, and you figured it out for yourself. And I think that is definitely very, very incredible for me to see.
Well, you got way better job than me, because you get to ask all these people all these questions. You get this free education. You get to have fun. You get to meet all these people, and your black book's got to be huge at this point, and it just keeps getting bigger. That's pretty awesome.
Right. I've done about 200 in the past year since I started, which is crazy to think it's already been a year, because I started when I was 17.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. I love it. That's courage right there. That's gold.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It can't be possible without people agreeing and being willing to sit down with a random teenage girl that they really don't know and being like, hey, I'll share my story. I'll teach you something. And I'm always open, and I'm so receptive. So this is super cool for me.
The concept was really cool. And that's why I was like, immediately, I got to do it. I seen the little letter in the beginning of your podcast, because your dad sent me a sample podcast that you did with, I think it was Nikki Satyr or something. Yes. Yeah, there you go. And that little letter in the beginning. And I'm all about little things. The big thing is great, the podcast, but I like to look at the little things.
Sure.
I think sometimes we forget the little things.
Me too.
I learned that from Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you've ever read Tim Ferriss, but he always talks about, we always look at the big things, stopping and looking at the little things, taking time to look at the small things, a plant, a flower, this, that, etc. Yeah. And that was a little thing that I like, the little scribble, the little letter.
Thank you so much. I did that all myself. So you know what? That is so kind of you to say. No one's ever really pointed out. I thought that was so cool, because me and my dad came up with a title, and then he's like, oh, you should put, for your YouTube, for the video, have an intro. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what can I do? I was like, come on, letter. That's so easy. that's so easy for me to do. So I learned it and then I did it all myself. I annotated it all myself. What can I say?
Well, I thought it was beautiful. It's great.
Thank
Like
you.
it's definitely foretelling of your successful career in the future as a brander, as a marketer, as an
Thank
entertainer, a
you.
speaker, whatever road you go. You just know, just from that letter alone, you'll figure it out and you'll be successful at whatever you do.
Thank you so much. That is so kind because I have been editing like video editing since I was like 13 and no one's ever really like talked about it. So you know what? Thank you so much. That's so kind of you.
Well, you're welcome. I like to point out the little things in life and the things that matter. And yeah, congratulations. Great job, really.
Yeah, me too. Especially when I've learned having these podcasts is that I like to mention the small details that they mentioned to me during the stories. And when I say it back to them, they're like, oh my gosh, you did listen. You were listening during those 10 minutes I was talking. I'm like, yes, I was. I very much appreciate it. So
Right
it's super,
on.
yeah, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you've taken today. And this conversation has just been such a joy for me. And learning all about that and agriculture, and there's so many different aspects of it that I think, and there's so many businesses that we don't realize. Because I think it's very easy to think that there's like 5 fields that you can always go into, which is like doctor and like
True.
lawyer and Home Depot. And
Yeah, Dr. Laura at Home Depot. I love the spread.
that's like my experience of life. And it's so cool. And it's so cool that you know you're able to learn from Grant Cardone and you're being able to connect through this amazing culture with Grant Cardone. How did you learn of Grant Cardone?
You know, for me, it was 2018. I was kind of at a flat point in my career. I was trying to figure things out. I didn't really know what was next. I had left the traditional business. I was an entrepreneur, and I felt like I was stagnant. I wasn't growing fast enough. So I've always been a book reader. My bachelor's degree is in English literature. So I love to read books. We could talk books for days. And
Me
I was just
too.
flipping through books. Yeah, and I'm flipping through books to read, and I'm like fiction, nonfiction, because you can get just as much from a fictional book and learn in business as an entrepreneur as you can a nonfiction book. Yeah, sometimes I figure stories teach us more than just a nonfiction dictation. But with that said, I was flipping through and the marketing caught me. Again, we'll go back to marketing. I seen this book that said the 10X rule was bright yellow and it had this big black 10 and a red X. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that looks like something that I need to read. But I wasn't really at the time really wanting to sit down and read a book. I was more active with my hands. I was working a lot because it was in the cannabis space. I was working a lot with plants. I was working a lot with nutrients, trying to learn a lot of stuff. So I bought an audiobook. It was actually one of my first audiobooks because before then I really didn't do audiobooks.
Mhm.
I'm a physical person. I like to open up a book. I like to smell it. A lot of
Me
used
too.
books in my
Yeah.
house, very old ones. Love the touch, the feel. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this audiobook. And you know, I knew I was going to like the book right away because he's from Louisiana and his Southern twang. And my wife's from North Carolina, so she has a Southern twang. So it was like, and I'm a Yankee, so I'm a Northerner. I talk fast. I don't really have a cool accent
Me
like these
too.
guys. So I just started listening to it, and I thought, wow, this guy is really brazen, really bold, and really smart. How did I meet him? Just like I do everything else in life. So I manifest. I'm a very big manifester, and my whole entire life. I've been fortunate enough and blessed that I've stood in rooms that I don't feel like I should have been in. Successful entrepreneurs that are a lot more successful than me, whether it be industry related entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs that are way out of the industry. But I was like, as soon as I heard the book, I said, I got to meet the guy. This is 2018. Yeah, 2018. I got to meet the guy. I got to learn from the guy. I read the book, sit down, and then there was no Grant Cardone from 2019 at all. None. Didn't read any more from him. Didn't watch anything. COVID hit 2020. Spent a lot of time at home. I did two things. I joined a mastermind / workshop to learn fungi in the earth and how mycelium channels the energies through the earth and microbiology. Nerded out, right? The second thing I did was watch a lot of Grant Cardone videos because I was learning business. So he had all these YouTube videos. So I was watching them. And somebody called me in, I think 2019 or 2020, sorry, 2020, 21, and asked me to be a part of the licensee program. And nah, I don't want to do that. Still doing my own thing. And then I met this guy named Gino from Grant Cardone's office, and he suggested it to me again. And I think over the years of saturating myself with it, 10x rule, taking a break, then saturating myself again, then taking a break, allowed me to see a better perspective. And I knew I wanted to meet the guy the second I read the book. So it was like, let's do this. And I knew I would. And when I first read the book, I said, I'm going to be a part of this guy. Like I've done many other entrepreneurs, and it come to fruition. So that's kind of the long and short journey of saturating and unsaturating myself to the point to where I felt like I had something to offer and they had something to offer me. Sometimes, no matter how much we're infatuated with stuff, sometimes we need to reserve ourselves and make sure the timing's right. Because I've been in rooms with entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs that I've absolutely loved, and I wasn't ready for that room, which hindered me from being present and serving. So over the years, I've learned that right time, right place. And how you do that is kind of like you figure it out along the way. It's an intuition, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. Your intuition, your gut feeling are really important, especially in business, and you have to look out for yourself. And usually, if your gut's telling you something, you should listen to it for a little bit and evaluate based upon that. But I think that's a really good thing to remind yourself too.
And really, it's about people like you and your father, right? It's Grant Cardone's great. Yeah, I met the guy, and that's all great, and I'm a licensee, and that's great too. And I'm not trying to minimize that,
right?
But the great things that come out of it is the network, meeting people like your dad, and then your dad introduced me to people like you, young entrepreneurs that are going to be way more successful than I could ever be. You guys are doing great things. And I sat down last night, and I even said to my wife, I said, it's crazy that somebody would even want to talk to me, because for me, like, I see myself as like still trying to figure out life. And I'm like, I can't believe that I'm honored to be on something like this, because I don't see myself as a person that, is really, I guess I know I have stuff to offer, but I don't look at myself in the same light as, I don't know. I just always am thinking that, I got to work harder, got to do more. I'm not ready for this yet. So
that makes
it's really cool to be on it.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being a part of it. And, I always believe that there's always something that you can learn from someone, whether, like anyone at any stage in life, we always have something that another person doesn't know. Like, you've taught me so much in the past, 20, 25 minutes. I had no idea about any of this before I got on. And I was like, I would love to hear. I love hearing other people's experiences. So that's cool. There's always something, as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to listen. There's nothing you can't learn from someone, I think. I always like to go lead conversations like, okay, what is something I learned? What is something I learned about a person, about, life, about ideals, about different things that I can take, that I want to apply or not apply, and etc.
Yeah, for me, it's the beatnik attitude. I always said that, being an English nerd, 1950s, the beats, that's what they used to do. And I love it, because they used to get around and just talk ideas. Same as business, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to spend it with me and talk. I had so much fun, and we're so similar in so many things. And I think this is super cool. So I'm really glad we were able to have this conversation. And it was just a blast for me.
Yeah. I think we'll leave with a quote. What would you say to your younger self? We'll take it from the poet Virgil. Fortune favors the bold. Right. So that's what I would leave everybody with that watches this podcast is fail hard, fail big, take risks, because as Virgil said, fortune favors the bold. You may fail 100 times, but that 101st time, if you keep going, is your winning success.
So true. That is so cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day.